Good evening. Hello, and how are you? I hope you're all doing well. It's Monday Night Live. I'm back again. It's been a couple of weeks, and as I sat down here in my craft room, I realized that the last time I was in my room was 2 weeks ago. So here I am. I'm back. Hello. So, as you may have seen on the ad that I posted for this, it's all about stencils tonight. I don't know why I don't talk more about stencils on Monday Night Live. Well, I think I do, but specifically on stencils because I love stencils. I do have a bit of a reputation. I don't know if you've heard, but I do have a reputation. And this lovely mug was made for me by one of my craft consultants, and I love it so much because I don't drink out of this because this is my paint water mug, but I love stencils. Love them. And I will tell anyone who asks me about stencils why I love them so much. I can't even remember back to what my first stencil was. But Tim Holtz, I love Tim Holtz stencils. This is my Tim Holtz stencil collection. These are the layering stencils. These are the minis. I bought these for years and years and years. I don't buy them so much anymore because there's so many stencils out there. But I'll purchase a Tim Holtz stencil if it's one that really speaks to me. But these are my Tim Holtz stencils. I don't use these in the store because a lot of these are really old. I started buying these when he started putting out stencils, and I don't even remember when that was. But these are my Tim Holtz stencils. I have tons of other stencils. My Tim Holtz ones, these are how I store them. I put them on little hooks like this. Keeps them organized. Are they in numerical order? No, of course not. I'm not that organized. But this is how I keep them here. So that's how I store those. I have tons of other stencils. 12 by 12, 6 by 6, 8 by 9, 8 by 8, 9 by 9. I have all of them. How do I store my stencils? Let's talk about that. How do I store them? Well, up until about a year ago, I didn't really have a great storage system until I started using Totally Tiffany. Just give me 1 minute because I left them way over here. I have two Totally Tiffany's. One is the paper handler. This is a 12 by 12 paper handler, and I keep all my large stencils in here. And these aren't even all of them. I have another container on my Calyx system that is full of stencils, really old stencils that I still use. I just don't show them because people want them and I can't get them anymore. And then for my smaller stencils, and this really does need some, this really does need a little bit of love and TLC to get it better organized. But this is an 8 by 8. I don't remember the name of it. Anyhow, it's 8 by 8. It's from Totally Tiffany. It has the closer, which I like, and this keeps all my smaller stencils. And I love it as well. So I have so many. I have so many. All right, that's how I keep them. Fab file, thank you. An 8 by 8 fab file. There we go. Now I'm going to go up. I'm going to switch my camera to my overhead cam. And we'll start talking about stencils. There we go. Okay, now there are many ways you can use stencils. Now, before we get started, what am I using here? I do have the number 10 tanks by Dina Wakley. I have some soft touch cardstock from Elizabeth Craft Designs. And as always, I have some Vicky Bouton Foundations paper. I don't know what I'm going to be using or grabbing. It's just there, and I will grab as I need to. Now, I can use my stencils with anything. Scribble sticks, that's a good one. Ink pads, Awesome. Great way to use your stencils. Paint. You can use paint, sprays. Yeah, you can use all of that with your stencils. And I'll be showing you how I use all of those with my stencils in a minute. But I also want to do a quick demo because Lorraine shared this a couple of weeks ago, doing dry embossing with a stencil. So I'm just going to bring in my platinum machine. And the reason I'm doing this first is because this one isn't messy. The rest are quite messy. So I'm going to bring in my platinum machine. And we're going to dry emboss with a stencil. I don't know if you knew you could do this, but you can. And it's fantastic. And I love it. Now, I did not have a chance to go through and check any of these stencils to see if they're still in stock. I'm sorry that I did that. And you're probably going to ask. And I'm not going to have an answer for you. But I am going to take, let me just grab, here we are. So with your platinum machine, you're going to need your stencil, of course. You're going to need a piece of paper. And all machines are different. But with the platinum, I'm going to use the base. And it does, on most machines, it will give you instructions on your base plate, on your plating. That is not really good. Here we go. So here, this one is how to emboss right here. So I've got my base plate. I am going to put my stencil down. Now, because this one is numbers, I'm going to place it face down. And now I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to put it on. Now, if I don't want it to move, yes, of course, I can put a little bit of tape on there if I want to keep it in a specific area. There we go. This is the pixie tape that I'm using. So I'm going to put that on there. And then I'm going to use an embossing mat. And I just realized I can't see your comments. So let me get rid of that screen. Here we go. Sorry, Debbie, I just saw your comments. Can you email support@paper? I can't answer that question here, but if you email your question to support@paperandinkboutique.com, we'll get back to you tomorrow. Okay, base plate, stencil, paper, embossing mat, and this is the embossing plate. And I'm going to put that through my platinum machine. Okay, so I'm going to go through, I'm going to go back. There we go. Let's get rid of our machine. And let's see what we have here. Taking away all our plates. We don't need those. Taking my tape off. And there, you can see that I have now embossed. There you go. I have used that stencil and I am dry embossed on the paper. There you go. Debbie, just email support@paperandinkboutique.com. Yeah, just do that and we'll get back to you with the answers. There you go. So that is dry embossing with a stencil. Just one technique that you can do. Now, once you're done with this, you can put your stencil back on. There we are. So you can put your stencil back on, and now I could ink to bring some of that up. So let me just grab, oh, here we are. Just going to grab, let's do this one. This is fossilized amber. I don't know why I'm not using my little mat, probably because I'm not used to it. So my stencil is on, and I'm just going to start in the middle. And I'm just going to do one color, just starting in the middle at its darkest and just fading it out. There we go. So that paper, not only is it embossed, with the stencil, but now I've put the stencil back on and ink through it. So now I've got an inked and embossed image on there. So there you go, 2 techniques using one stencil, embossed and ink. And I think that's pretty cool. I love that. How great would that be for a birthday card? Fabulous. Okay, so there's one. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I need to set this somewhere so I remember to bring them all back in at the end. Okay, let me put that away. Put that away and put that away. Now, one other thing you can do with a stencil is maybe you've got one of these Simon Hurley stamping foam. Now, this one, I think on my last live, I did this into a stencil. Now, it's not permanently there. All I have to do is heat this up and that image will go away. There we go. It's mostly gone. But what I'm going to do, now that it's heated up, I'm going to press it into this stencil. And there you go. Now I've taken that stencil and I've put the impression of that stencil on my stamping foam. So now I can take an ink pad. Let's take an ink pad. Rub our ink pad over the stamping foam. There we go. I'm just going to grab a piece of paper here. Just going to spray this with a little bit of water. And I'm going to take it and just put that down on my paper. And there you go. So that was taking a stencil, pressing my warmed stamping foam into the stencil, getting the impression, and there you go, stamped with a stencil image, right? Love it. Now the stamping foams, I actually purchased this one. I have never used it, but there is this one with a heart on it. So you can pop the heart out and you can have this part. So I could ink this up, stamp it over, or I can do it with just the heart. So let's do that with another stencil. Let me just find something here. Actually, let's just do it with a solid color. That's actually a great idea. Let's do that. This isn't using a stencil, but I'm going to stamp it over top. Okay, so let's ink up that heart. I'm going to spray it off camera with a little bit of water. There we go. And now I can take that and stamp it over top of there. How fun is that? I might have put a little bit too much water on there, but so much fun to play. And there I just stamped off the ink there. And you can tell it picked up some of that fossilized amber below and stamped it off. Ooh, love that. Happy accidents. What is the name of this stencil? Oh, that's a good question. I just grabbed these out. It doesn't even have a brand on it. I don't know. I know it's not Paper Artsy. Perfect. Okay, let's set that one aside. Where am I putting all of these? Oh, right down there. Okay, I'm just going to wipe off my stamping foam. You can see it cleans up very nicely. So there's that one. And there's this one. So this one's great. Once you stamp it, like I can go back in with another color and keep stamping. That image will stay on that foam until I heat it up again. So I can use this over and over and over and over again. So there you go. Stamping foam with your stencils. Okay, let me look at my, sorry, I'm just looking at my list. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, probably my first love, my very first and favorite thing that I like doing with stencils is ink blending through them. I love ink blending through my stencils. So I'm going to go back to this one. I'm going to grab my inks. Let's start with squeezed lemonade first. Squeeze lemonade. Go into fossilized amber. Oh my goodness. My fingers are very sticky tonight. Everything is sticking. Okay. Let's take that one out. Let's do spice marmalade. So this is probably my very first and my most favorite way to use a stencil. It's just blending ink through it. Just so much fun and so easy. Like it's so easy to do that. I love it. Love, love, love. Now, I always tell people, don't wipe all of that gorgeous ink off your stencil when you do that. Now, this is going to be a little wonky because I'm going to spray this with water and then I'm going to flip it over. But of course, everything's going to be backwards because it's letters or numbers. So I'm just going to spray my stencil with a bit of water off camera. So I don't know if you can see that, but there is water on there. I'm going to flip it ink side down and I'm going to lay that there. I'm going to grab just a piece of paper towel and just press and hold that. There we go. No, I don't really have a preference. I'm just going to put there we are. Debbie's asking if I have a preference for oxides for doing this. No, not really. I just happen to grab oxides. But I also love using the Catherine Pooler and the Distressings. Okay, so I leave it sitting on there because you want the water and the ink to have a chance to transfer off of your stencil and onto your paper. And there you go. And then you lift it off. I usually prefer this to the original one. And I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this. There you go. Yes. No, they'll still be upside down. They'll still be upside down because it's still going to be backwards. Yeah. So I just love that. That is fantastic. Now, so there's one. That's the ink, the positive, and there we are, the negative. Same stencil, same inks, one through, one sprayed with water and laid down. I absolutely love that. That's fun. And I do that with all of my stencils. I never waste the ink. I will take it and I will put it in my art journal. I never waste it. Like this. That still has plenty of ink on it. There's my spray bottle. So I can spray it again. I can take another piece of paper. Let's take another tag here. I got lots of tags. Oops, not that one. So I can take my tag and maybe I want to lay it on a little bit differently this time. Maybe I want to lay it across like that. See, it just keeps getting lighter and lighter, but still very usable. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe that one back. So there you are using stencils with your blending brushes and your inks. And any inks. I will use Catherine Pooler. I'll use Distress Inks. I don't tend to use archivals. I don't use archivals just because they are a permanent ink and they are kind of a tough one to clean off your stencil. So I tend to not use those ones. I tend to stick with the water reactive. Okay, so let's put that one away. Sprays. That's also another way to use it. I'm just going to take this stencil. I'm going to turn it upside down. Now we're going to use sprays. Let me grab another. Here we go. Need to put that down so it lays straight. Okay. Now this is where things will go incredibly messy. Now I've got some sprays here. I just chose it's a combination of spray stains, oxide sprays. I just grabbed a bunch. I didn't really, and I also made sure they were all working. Okay, so I'm going to take this. I'm going to just take a spray. Let's do that one. Let's do, what else should I do here? What's this? Peacock feathers. Sure, let's do that one. Sure, that's good. See what I mean by messy? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, I'm going to lift that off. And there you go. Isn't that gorgeous? I love how the overspray will give you that third color. So I've got the yellow, I've got the blue, but of course the blue is going to go over top of the yellow and give me green. So look at that. Absolutely love it. It's amazing. Just going to set that one there for just a minute. Let me grab another tag. Now, again, we are going to not waste the ink. You spent money on this ink. You don't want to waste it. Don't just wipe it away and get rid of it. I'm going to use my spray bottle off camera. I'm going to give it a couple of sprays. There we go. So now I've got ink. I've got water. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to lay it down. And we're going to do the same thing. You want to give your inks and the water enough time to transfer to your paper. So I don't move it. I don't fuss with it a whole lot. I'm just going to press and hold. There we go. And look at how amazing that is. So there's one. Here's the first one I did. This is spraying through the stencil. This is laying your stencil down on your paper the other way. So one stencil, two different ways, and look at how gorgeous that is. Absolutely stunning, and I love both. Love, love, love. Just going to dry this just a little bit. Why do you need to spray it with water? Just so you get a really good transfer. Sometimes if you've got enough spray on there, you can just put it down. I like to spray it with water so I make sure that almost all of that ink will transfer over. And because we live in Alberta and it's very dry, things can dry very fast here. So I always like to spray just with a little bit of water. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. There we go. Okay, so there's my stencil. You can see there's still a lot of ink on there. So I can take this again. I'm not going to spray it with water, but I can see that the ink is mostly around the outside. Mostly around the outside. So I may not get, I'm going to bring this over so that inky side will transfer. Yeah, didn't get a whole lot off that one. Now, if I was to spray it with water, reactivate those sprays, because remember, these sprays are water reactive, sorry. So the first one I did not spray it. Did not spray. Didn't get really a good transfer at all. Second time, sprayed it, laid it down. Much, much better. So there is a second generation of that one. So first one, this was spraying the spray stains through the stencil. Then we took the stencil, sprayed it with water, got this. And then I took the stencil again, sprayed it a third time, and got that. Yeah, lovely. All of them. Every single one. I love all of them. Okay, give me a minute to just clean up my mess. Just let me clean up my mess. There we go. Wonderful. I think I saw somebody asking what stencil this is. It's Ciao Bella. And I'm trying to look for a name or a number, and I don't see one, but it is Ciao Bella. And it's not that old. Yeah, it's not that bad. Okay, so let me get the spray stains out of the way. Those are really easy to do. Just going to move them so I've got a little bit more room. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to start layering things up. So let me go back. I'm going to go back to these two. They are still a little damp, so I am going to just give them a quick dry. Okay, now what about paint? What about paint? How do we do that? Okay, I'm going to grab another stencil. And I apologize because, like I said, I did not look to see what we had available. I just pulled out some of my favorites. So some of these may not be available. I love stencils that have dots in them. Big dots, little dots. Love them because I find them very... like this one. I think this is Crafter's Workshop, actually. But again, it's an old one. I'm going to use this stencil with these larger dots. I'm going to take, give me 1 minute. I forgot to grab out my black paint. My favorite color of paint. That's right. Okay. I grabbed some black paint. This is just a paper artsy black paint. Any black paint will work. Now I'm going to, and I'm going to preface this with this stamping foam that I've got here. This is no longer available from Ranger, and I apologize that I'm using it. But if you've got blending foam with a Tim Holtz blending tool, works the exact same way. I don't have any here because I don't use that. So I'm just going to squeeze out just a little bit of black paint. I'm going to take my stamping foam. And if you've got the stamping foam with the tool, you do this the exact same way. Pick up some paint. You're going to tap it because you don't want to go in with too much paint. You want to just have just a little bit of paint. So I'm going to take this stencil. I'm going to overlay it over top of this. I'm going to work on the edge here, and I'm just going to tap. You don't want to press, because if you press and you've got too much paint on your foam, it's going to smoosh under your stencil. So I always tell people less is more. You can add more paint, but you can't take it away once it smooshes under your stencil. You're kind of hooped. So I always say less is more. Okay, so I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to add some more paint here. Now, the one good thing about doing paint over top of a spray is the paint is not going to overreact with your spray. So you're not going to get a whole lot of reaction, and your sprays aren't going to react and start running all over the place. That's why I like using the paint over top of the spray. Does that make sense? Now, just for fun, I'm going to come in with a different color. Here we go. This one, Firebird. And again, I'm using Paper Artsy paint just because they're my favorite. But if you've got any paint, any acrylic paint will work. It doesn't have to be Paper Artsy. And you're using so little paint, it really does not take very long to dry. And if you're in Alberta, or if you're, live in a climate like us, we're very dry here. So these things, especially when you're using so little, they dry very quickly. There you go. So paint's over top of my sprays. Don't be afraid to layer. That's the fun of it, is getting your product out, using it and layering it up and having fun. Now, I know some people struggle with, what do I do first? Do I spray? Do I paint? Do I ink? What do I do? And you have to think in layers. If you're putting a really heavy, like a water reactive layer, like if you're spraying over top of ink that is water reactive, they're going to react. They're going to, all of a sudden, they're going to react. They're going to mix, and you could make mud. So that's why I tend to do a spray and an ink first, spray or ink first, and then I do a paint over top. That's usually what I do. Okay, so there we are. More, that's paint through stencils. Paint through stencils. Let me look at my list. Where am I? Great. Okay, let me put that aside. Texture paste, also really cool to use through stencils. So we've got Tacky When Dry Gel Medium. I have got a sample over here that has, we needed it to dry. Light and Fluffy Modeling Paste, Texture Paste, Stencil Butters, Paper Glazes, all of those things can be put through a stencil. Let me... Let's go. Let's grab another tag. Let's do. Actually, do you know what? I want to put a base on this. I just don't want to put. I just grabbed 3, just randomly off my. Just leaned over, grabbed them. Don't even know if this is going to work, but let's try. Okay, so I'm going to blend some oxide inks, and again, oxides, just because they're right here beside me, that's the only reason I grabbed them. You know what? People are wondering why I use oxide so much. So let's grab, not that one. That one? No. Sorry, just trying to find 3 colors that I want to use together. These are Catherine Pooler inks. Catherine Pooler inks. I love using Catherine Pooler inks. They're lovely. They're a dye ink. They are similar to Distress inks in their properties, but these are different. Their pads are a foam pad. Very squishy. I love it. Now, one thing I learned recently is that if you want this color and you don't want to blend it, you can actually take these and run them right across your paper and get a nice deep color. In fact, let's do that. Should we just do that? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so this is lemongrass. So I'm going to take lemongrass. Now you do have to be careful, of course, because these are foam. Don't be like, making it too rough on it, because, you could rip the foam. Okay, so let's do that one. Mandarin Spice, which I think I need to re-ink. It certainly doesn't seem to be as juicy as that other one. Yep, that one needs to be re-inked. And Merlot, which is brand new. And oh my gosh, look at that. That is like, that almost looks like candy corn, sort of. I only need to go over that one once because it is so amazingly saturated. So I could have taken my blending tools, and they do blend nice. Heather is absolutely correct. Now I could take this. Let me go over and let's get Merlot out again. Let's just get more. Let's ink that up. So remember, all I've done is I've inked on there, and now I'm going to go in with Merlot, and I'm going to go over top. There you go. So this was a tone on tone. Let me tip it so you can see it. There we are. So it's very subtle, but the tone on tone is there. And then I've went through the other two colors. Isn't that gorgeous? I do not store my ink pads upside down. No, none of them. I do. Now, I was actually supposed to do a technique using texture paste, but I did another stencil over top. So I'm going to have to start over, but we're going to set that there because we're going to do that again. Okay, let's try this again. Let's start over. Nope, don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Let me use these two colors just because they're nice and light. This one's Tranquil. This one's Cove Blue. This one I find I have to work a little bit more at, but that's all right. Remember, I say when you're inking up your backgrounds, it's never going to be just one layer. It's never one layer. You always go in. I always say your first layer of ink is kind of like your primer. You're just your base. And then you need to go back and you need to build up those layers. So I'm just going to go in. Good, done there. I'm going to move over here to Cove Blue. I'm not pressing hard with my brush. I'm just going in really light. I'm going to start moving into the Cove Blue. And then I'm going to come down here. See, I pressed heavy there, and that's why I've got that dark spot. I'm a very heavy-handed blender, so when I'm using my blending tools, I usually have to be very conscious of how heavy I am blending. because I just naturally want to blend very hard. Okay, so there we are. We've got a blended background, and I did want it a little bit darker through the middle than at both the top and the bottom. So I am achieving that look. I'm just trying to blend out these darker spots just by going over those areas just a little bit more. Perfect. Okay. Now, I know people will come and they'll bring their blending into me and they're like, look, my blending, it's not smooth. Well, were you going to leave it like this? Are you going to go and give this to somebody? Here you go, happy birthday. No, you're going to build more layers on top of that. So all of those edges that you see, you may still see it, but the recipient's not going to know. They're not going to see it because they're just going to see this beautiful card or beautiful tag or whatever you made. Okay, so I'm going to put this stencil down. This is another thing I always look for in stencils is I love stencils that don't have a solid edge. I love stencils like this. So say I wanted to bring this and I wanted to do it like this and ink. How gorgeous is that going to be? I'm not going to do that on this one because I want to use a paper glaze. Do I want to use paper glaze or do I? No, we're going to use light and fluffy. Or maybe we'll do both. You know, we're going to do both. I'm going to start at the top with, this is the light and fluffy modeling paste, light and fluffy. This is from TCW, but any modeling paste will do. I love the Ranger's texture paste. And I don't think my spatula was clean. Or do you know what? It's my stencil. My stencil has stuff on it. See, clean your stencils, people. It still had Merlot on it. Yes, you can color the modeling paste. You absolutely can. So this is a paper glaze. This is Paper Glaze Luxe Turquoise Jewelry. This is from Picket Fence. And you can see how much I like it. Look at, it's like I'm using it a lot. Okay. Now, I always tell people when you're doing paste through a stencil, don't go back and forth. Try and keep going in the same direction. And another thing I always tell people is don't worry about getting these perfect edges. Don't worry about getting a perfect edge. Don't worry about using the entire stencil. Like you can see, I just went diagonal through the middle. Okay, let me close that in. I'm going to come back in with more of the light and fluffy. I'm going to keep wiping that off because I don't want to contaminate my jar. What I'm doing is I'm just adding some of the white and fluffy to the edge of where that stencil butter is. There we go. Okay, let me close these up really good. Let me wipe my finger off before I get some of that in the way. I know when it's on, it looks very messy. You're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a train wreck. But then you take it off. I always check my edges because I don't want any of the texture paste hanging over the edge. And now I've got that. How gorgeous is that? I don't even mind the Merlot that came off my stencil. It actually works really good with the background. I love that. How gorgeous is that? Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. All right, let me set that one aside. Let me clean this up. Now, if you're using texture paste, stencil butters, any of those things, you want to get it off of your stencil as quickly as possible. You don't want to let it dry on there because it just gets really hard to take off. So I'm just going to lay that on some paper towel. Now, after, what you're not going to see is after I'm done this, I am going to take the stencils that I've used and use scrubby soap and clean them up. but this will just get off the majority of it before it dries. Now, what a lot of creators do is they will have a stencil bath beside them, and they'll just throw their stencils in the water and then clean them up after, and that works too. Okay, perfect. Let me put that stencil away. Okay, there you go. So there's that one. Okay, let me set that one carefully to the side. I'm going to come over here. Now, this one I did earlier. I blended the background with these 3 distress inks, Squeeze Lemonade, Fossilized Amber, and Spice Marmalade. Just did the tag. And then I took my stencil. I'm trying to find the stencil here. It's one of the new Tracy Scott ones. Here it is. I took this one, put it right down here in the bottom of my tag, and I'm trying to get it so hopefully you can see that. And I put the Tacky When Dry Gel Medium through it. I did this maybe an hour ago, and it's great. When you put it on, it goes on white. You can see there, it goes on white. And once it goes clear, it's tacky and it's ready for you. So here's the stencil. I put the Tacky When Dry Gel Medium through it, and now I'm going to put some gilding flakes on it. Now this is where things get extremely messy, because gilding flakes are messy. I'm just going to put that on there. Just going to take a little bit. Just going to drop it on there. So wherever that Tacky When Dry Gel Medium is, there we go. That is where the gilding flakes are going to stick. Oh, Jennifer, don't be afraid of using your gilding flakes. I mean, the only thing you have to be afraid of is making a mess. But if you have to sneeze, look away. And never do it near an open window or a fan. But look how gorgeous that is. Ooh, that's delicious. Look how wonderful that is. OMG. Now, I also tell people, and usually I do this, is clean up. Now, sometimes I don't save these just because they're such a pain to get back in, but I'm going to try. Just tap, tap, tap. Perfect. There we go. That's going away. And we're going to close that up before I sneeze and I have gilding flakes all over the place. So there we are, using a stencil and gilding flakes. How absolutely gorgeous is that, right? Stunning. Oh, I need to do something with that one. Okay, looking at my list. Okay, so that last stencil that I used, this one here on there, it is this stencil from Tracy Scott. And I think she's calling it her sunflower stencil. I can't remember. So this past weekend, I've been drawing lots of mandalas. This is my mandala book. And so this is what I've been working on. But this weekend, I didn't feel like doing a mandala. So I grabbed that stencil, happened to be in my little working bag that I take. And I took the stencil and I traced it 3 times. And then after I traced it, I did draw it with my Micron pen, and now I'm coloring it in with coloring pencils. So maybe you've got a stencil trace it, color it, doodle with it. There you go. Right? So you can even take a stencil, and these ones are great for that. These wide open ones. Love it. Other ones like these. I have traced that one and colored it in. So lots of really great ideas to use a stencil. So there's that one. The exact same one that I used here. It's, I don't know. It's probably around in there somewhere. But how cool. Same stencil, very different look. Okay, what else can you do with stencils? Did you know that you can use stamps with your stencils? Let's do that one quick. Let me go back. And this works really good with these stencils that have wide open spaces. So florals work really good. Circles work really good. I love this one in particular. So what I'm going to do, let me grab a tag. First, what I'm going to do is let's ink first. So let me grab, let's just go back to these three. Here we go. Let's make it easy on yourself, Julia. So let's use these three. These three colors seem to be working for me tonight. So let's not break. Let's not fix what isn't broken. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we're going to start with fossilized amber in the middle. I'm going to use this one around the outside. And then spice marmalade. Where was the brush that I was using for that one? Here. I'm just going to add just a smidge. Not too much. Just there. Just add a little bit of something. Oh, you guys still talk about scrubby soap? I love scrubby soap. It's my favorite. Okay, so there's my stenciling. Now, if I want to add stamping on top of that, I'm going to, should not have removed that. There we go. Keep your stencil on. Perfect. And now I'm going to grab a stamp. Now, I like using script stamps for this. This is probably one of my newest favorite script stamps. I love this one. I'm going to take that out, and I am going to grab, I love browns with yellows. I just do. So I'm going to grab, this is a Distress Oxide. I don't normally stamp with these. Like I'd never stamp sentiments with it, but for this technique, I will. I'm just going to add a little bit of ink on there. And now, actually what I'm going to do, so my stencil doesn't move on me, I'm just going to grab some tape here. This is the yellow tape. Let's just add that right there. And I'm just going to add another little bit here. Okay, so I'm going to take my stamp, add a little bit of ink to it. And now I'm going to stamp through my stencil. Oops. Perfect. Okay, there we go. Let's peel that up. And there we are. So I've stamped through the stencil. And that's very cool. I love doing that. That's another really cool one. So you have the stamps, you have the stencils, you have the ink. Don't think you have to use them independently of one another. Of course, you can combine them. Just gonna wipe that up. So how cool is that? Stamping through your stencil. Love it, love it, love it. And I also tell people stencils, a lot of people have this idea that stencils are for mixed media. Oh, well, I don't do art journal. I don't do mixed media. I use my stencils for card making. I use them for scrapbooking. I use them for card making. I use them for everything. And you look at one stencil can cost you, $8, $9, $10, $12. But you think of the hundreds of times that you will get use out of that stencil if you take care of it. And it really does. What stamp did I use? And again, I apologize. I didn't see if we had this one still left in stock. It is this one. And I keep this one in regular rotation just for this stamp right here. I love it so much. I don't even think I've used the other ones. No, I haven't. I just got it for this because I love it so much. So it's HP 1304EZ. And it is a Paper Artsy hot pick. Yeah, love it. Love, love, love. Okay, so I also tell people, because a lot of people think, well, do I have to use the entire stencil? No. Like this stencil is a whole entire flower. I just use one corner of it. And this one, I just used a little bit of it. So no, you don't have to use the entire stencil. And I always tell people when you're looking at stencils like this one here, which is another favorite of mine. I try and keep this one in stock just because I love it so much. This has just got random letters on it. It has the word the. Look, you can see I've done that technique because there's stamping on there. Yeah, there you go. Oh, there's one other. I just happened to look over here and saw one other thing. And I know a lot of you are like fans of Vicky Boutin and Dina Wakley. And yes, you can use your Dina, you can use your scribble sticks. You can also use your Vicky Boutin on your stencils. And I've done that every once in a while as well. Piece of paper. Here we go. I'm just going to do this little guy right here. So you can take your crayons and you can put them through your stencil. And these things are water reactive. So you can put those through as well. But you can also just color on your stencil, activate it with water, and then use the kiss method. But yeah, you can even use your crayons, your distress crayons, your Vicky Boutin gel crayons. You can use scribble sticks. All of the things are amazing. Get them out. I always encourage people, just get out your stuff and play. Just get it and play and have fun, because you might be surprised. You might do something and you'd be like, oh my gosh, I didn't think that would work. And it turns out absolutely amazing. I do it all the time. And I have been crafting for over 20 years and I still surprise myself. Still, I'm like, oh my gosh, look what I did. That's amazing. Look at how crafty I am. So yeah, that is all about my love of stencils. I love stencils. I use them all the time. I can't get enough of them. And like I said, I've got hundreds of stencils. Hundreds. Is Glenn watching? Glenn probably knows I have hundreds of stencils because I keep ordering them and I keep buying all of them because I love them all. But yeah, get out your products, get out your paints, get out your sprays, get out your texture paste. It's important to use your texture paste. Don't save them. Don't be afraid of them because they will dry out. They will dry. So get them out, use them, play with them, make beautiful things with them. So don't just save it. And then one day you're like, oh, I remember that tutorial that Julia did. So I'm going to get it out, and then it's going to be dry, because a lot of these things are water-based and they do dry up eventually. And then if you have stamping foam, get out, use those with your stencils, dry emboss them with your with your platinum or your Big Shot or those machines. So yeah. Oh, Glenn, that's not true. He's lying. Okay, so there we go. If you're wondering what I'm talking about here. He says we eat lots of rice and pasta because of my love of stencils. Yeah, no, that's not true. Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed that, Joanne. Thank you so much. Yes, so I gave you a lot of techniques to work on. But yeah, get out your things, use them, have fun. I'm just going to just give me a minute. I'm going to switch back up to my front facing camera. Here I am. So I hope you had fun. I hope you learned things. I hope, don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. Get out your projects, get out your paste, your inks, your sprays, your stencils. Get it out and play. Just make backgrounds. Exactly what I did here. Just sit down, play, make things. You might be surprised. Like, see that? That is gorgeous. What I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to write on the back the inks I use, the gilding flakes I use, the tacky when dry. So if you're making things like this, write down what you've used, write down the techniques, write down the stencil, all of the things. And then if you're having a bit of a dry spell and you don't know what you want to create, you can flip through your little, see here, this is where I put my Monday night tags, is I put them on here. I write down what I use. So then, you sit down, you're like, oh, I need to make a card for Aunt Joan. And what am I going to do? Flip through it and you'll get to something like this and you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. I'm going to make a card with those techniques and those products, right? That's what Techniques on Tags is all about. Get your product out, make your tags, write down exactly what you've used on the back. You could even write down, if you're using a technique from this video, write down what episode you're watching. So if you wanted to go back and rewatch it, you could be like, oh, episode 21, I got to go watch that again. How'd she do that? And then you can go and you can create it again. So there we are, another technique on tags. I'm glad you were having fun. Thank you all so much for all of your great comments. If you do want to watch this again, it is on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to find it there really easily under the playlist Monday Night Live. It is also in our inspiration group and on our main Facebook page, but those do kind of end up getting lost in the feed there. So it is a lot easier to find on the feed. And if you are writing this down, it is episode 21. It is August 8th. And then that way you can go back and find the video later. Have a great evening, everyone. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.